In Climate Watch, that heat wave complicating firefighting efforts in California is stretching across most of the West. High temperatures there will continue into the weekend, with many regions expected to see triple digits. CBS News meteorologist and climate specialist Jeff Berardelli joins me now. Jeff, when will the West see some relief from these temperatures?
You know, relief is a relative term because they are already beginning to see some relief. Temperatures are coming down a little bit. So instead of 130, let's say in Death Valley, temperatures are closer to 124, 125 degrees. So everyone's seeing the temperatures come down a few degrees, but it's still a very intense heat wave. So watch this area of high pressure. This is the heat dome. It was actually in record territory. It was one of the strongest heat domes we've ever seen, if not the strongest we've ever seen during the month of August. And over the next 5 days, instead of seeing 150 records, we're going to see about 75 records, because notice how it kind of shrinks into the southwest, then it gets bigger and moves back northward into the Great Basin area, especially as we head into the weekend. So we're going to see a resurgence of heat. However, the core of it's going to be a little further north and a little bit further towards the east. So you can see all the watches and warnings in effect for the west right now, excessive heat warnings. And this is a look at temperatures as we head into tomorrow. So notice Vegas is 114 degrees. It is no picnic. It's still an intense heat wave. Phoenix is 112, and Furnace Creek, which is Death Valley, 124. So yeah, just a little improvement, but unfortunately not much at all. And of course, this heat dries out all of the brush, making the fires worse. 123 in Furnace Creek on Friday, 112 Vegas, 109 in Phoenix. Up and down the valleys of the West Coast, Fresno's 104, 105 as we head into Bakersfield. So yeah, lots of heat across the West and also very dry conditions as well.
Yeah, well, let's talk about those dry conditions. You heard me mention, and Chris's package, talking about the California wildfires. How is that high heat and those droughts affecting fire conditions, and how much of this is related to climate change?
So the first question is, yeah, I mean, the heat really dries out the air and it dries out the brush. So it's a big factor in fires, and that's why we see fire season begin during the dry season in the West, which is during the middle of the summer. Typically, it begins in August, but it usually doesn't ramp up as quick as this. The other reason is we had thunderstorms that move through. It's very rare this time of year that you would have thunderstorms, but tropical moisture, we talked about it a few days ago right here on CBSN. We would see this extra moisture kind of infused into the atmosphere. So it's very dry on the ground. You see these dry lightning strikes that come down because you have thunderstorms, but not that much rain, just a lot of lightning, and that flames up even more fires. And so look at the West. I mean, it is covered under drought conditions. And by the way, there's been a drought there, generally since around 2000. We've entered a mega drought in the West, according to Columbia University. One of their scientists did a really landmark study recently saying that this is the worst drought, one of the worst droughts we've seen in 1,200 years in the West, or at least the beginning of one of the worst droughts in 1,200 years. And you can see how the West is warming much more rapidly than the rest of the country. That's drying out the air. It's drying out the soil. It's causing the probability of more fires and more intense fires and fires that spread even more. And then looking at, this trend in temperatures across the West, look at Palm Springs. 14 more days a year with temperatures at 110 degrees or more than that. And so just a couple of fire stats to go through real quickly for you, just to show you how things have changed in the West. California fire season, 2 to 3 months longer than it was back in the 1970s. Burned area has increased by 5 times. So it's been a substantial increase just over the past few decades. 15 of the 20 largest wildfires have happened since 2000. And you can see that trend. Temperatures go up and the intensity and the size of these fires goes up, and it has been over the past 4 to 5 decades.
Jeff, let's focus in now on the Midwest. It's been more than a week since the hurricane-strength storm called derecho plowed through the region. What's the latest on the damage there? Yeah, so this was an amazing, intense derecho. What was amazing about it, it was on the ground for so long. It lasted for such a long time. You can see this is essentially called a bow echo. It's a complex of thunderstorms that forms into kind of a bow. You can see it bowing out right there, right there. So what happens is in the bow echo, it concentrates the winds right towards the apex. That's the apex.
So this is obviously over the course of many hours as it was making its way across the Midwest into the Great Lakes area. And the more it bows, the stronger those winds are. So I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen a derecho this strong for this wide of an area affected by winds. By the way, we had a wind today that was reported. They went and surveyed some damage, and the National Weather Service said it's 140-mile-an-hour wind. That's Cat 3, Cat 4 hurricane force wind gusts across Iowa. And because of it, you know, we've seen over 10 million acres of corn crop damaged or destroyed. So there's been a tremendous impact from really what is, you know, they see these all the time, but usually never this strong, Lana.
Yeah, people we've heard from without their homes, without power. Can you tell us a little bit more about just how powerful this storm was? It was really interesting seeing that that graphic there. And what happened when it hit Iowa and parts of Illinois?
Yeah, so to give you an idea of how this all happened, first of all, these are caused by what we call mesoscale convective complexes. So just big masses of thunderstorms. Very common this time of year in this area of the Central Plain states and also into the Midwest. There was a mid-level and low-level jet stream that was really strong, and sometimes if these thunderstorms are strong enough, they're downdrafts. So the thunderstorms have updrafts and downdrafts. The downdrafts can carry those really strong jet stream winds. There was a merger of two low-level jet streams right across the Cedar Rapids area, and it brought those winds right down to the ground. So if you have a strong enough thunderstorm line, you can bring those winds down to the ground, and that's why so much damage was caused. And it was about a 40-mile swath of winds, you know, 90 miles an hour plus. Some places reporting winds to 120, 130 miles an hour. And a lot of folks reported hurricane-force winds for a half hour. Again, this is something that, as a meteorologist, I've seen a lot of these, and some of them are really bad. This was probably the worst I've ever seen.
All right, Jeff Berardelli, thank you.
You're welcome.